Okay, now we're going to be talking about section 131, which is combat service support element. Still talking about the job, like HM2 said, but this time around we'll be focusing on the maintenance battalion. We're starting with the maintenance battalion, and to understand this, you have to know the mission of all the different battalions. If you know the missions of these battalions, then you understand what they do. Okay. A definition for the mission and organization for the maintenance battalions is that the maintenance battalion provides general support and intermediate, third and fourth echelon maintenance support for the Marine Corps, furnish tactical ordnance, engineering, motor transportation, communications, electronics, and general support equipment of the MEF. In essence, what we're saying is that the maintenance battalion, these are the guys that handle maintenance for all those different things that we just mentioned. The maintenance battalion have a few companies under them, okay? When you go to each battalion, there's always an HNS. As long as you understand that, there's always an HNS in every battalion. And the HNS is always the command, and they handle command support functions and administrative functions for the battalion, okay? So under the maintenance battalion, you have your HNS company, then you have your ordnance maintenance company, you have your electronics maintenance company, you have your motor transport maintenance company, you have your engineering maintenance company, and then you have your general support maintenance company. Okay. So, given that, you have to understand the different tasks that's involved with these people. Okay. Remember, I mentioned it again, they provide intermediate. You know what, before I even go into that, let me break down the levels of maintenance. The 5 levels of maintenance. Okay. Let me get that broken down here real quick, because it'll make it very easy to understand the rest of this. Okay. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Your first echelon here is on the first echelon, we have the organizational. Okay. The first category is organizational. Okay? So this is, when we talk about organizational, that's every maintenance that's done within the organization, within the primary organization. Let's say you have a piece of equipment. If you fix that equipment by yourself, which is done in your shop, that's considered an organizational level maintenance. So echelons 1 and 2 fall under organizational level of maintenance. Okay. After the organizational level, we go to what we call the intermediate level. Of course, levels 3 and 4 fall under that intermediate level. Then the last level, which is level 5, is called depot. Okay. So this breakdown will kind of help you understand what goes on here. All right. Let's say a piece of equipment. You have a piece of equipment, an X-ray machine, since we're in medical. You have an X-ray machine. Being that you have an X-ray technician that knows about that machine, that works on that machine, if he's the one that turns it on every day, does whatever he's supposed to do, when he does any kind of maintenance on that machine, it's considered an organizational maintenance. All right. Now, when he has to call somebody else, which a specialist, not in his command, not in his unit, but when the biomedical technicians, which is still part of medical, comes in to look at that equipment, that's echelon 2. That's the scheduled maintenance, still down here at the organizational level, because they're coming to your shop to do it. That's why it's still in-house. So it still falls under organizational. Remember, it's coming back into your organization to do the maintenance. That means the equipment does not leave your organization. So that's why it's still organizational. After that, if you can't fix the problem with that machine, then he will tell you, okay, I need to take the equipment to my shop. Once that equipment leaves your organization and goes with the medlaw guy to his shop to get fixed, it becomes echelon 3, because now the equipment has left the building. It's at an intermediate level. So once that technician does that work, and let's say he still cannot fix the equipment, now he has to call somebody from the manufacturing company to come in and look at it. When he calls that person and that person's come to that shop to do it, that becomes level 4. That means it's still intermediate still, because the equipment, though not in your organization, is still with your people, but in a higher echelon, which is the intermediate echelon. So when that person comes in and tries to fix that equipment, he's at that 4th level. And let's say that specialist comes in, he does all his calibrations and still cannot fix this equipment. Then he tells the specialist, hey, you know what, your instrument is in pretty bad shape. I have to take it back to the factory. That means I got to take it back to the manufacturer to do everything to bring it back to its proper use. That's echelon 5, and that's depot. And if you notice, depot is usually associated with warehousing and the supplier, the manufacturers and stuff. So now you understand the different echelons and the categories that they fall under. So these are the categories, and these are the echelons. Echelon 1 and 2 are organizational, in-house. Echelon 3 and 4 are intermediate. That means that's done by your people, but a specialist comes in, someone trained to do the job comes in and does the job. And then once it leaves them and goes outside back to the manufacturer, it's considered echelon 5. Just wanted to explain that first before going into detail about what the different tasks of maintenance battalion. All right, now moving back to the task. These guys have what? They do have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 8 tasks. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 tasks. 11, 12. So, what are the tasks? All right, they provide intermediate 4th echelon maintenance in, I believe I am on the right. Intermediate 4th level echelon maintenance, which is right here, in support of secondary repairable program, including repairing and rebuilding components and sub-assemblies of end items. Then, guess what? They provide track vehicle evacuation capability. That means if a vehicle is messed up, let's say there's something wrong with the vehicle, they call the maintenance guys to take a look at it. They provide calibration services for electronic and mechanical equipments. Then they provide organizational second echelon and intermediate 3rd and 4th echelon maintenance on end items. Remember I told you, if something goes wrong with your equipment and it's beyond your repair, you call in that specialist to come in and do a scheduled, when they come in and do that scheduled inspection, that falls under the 2nd echelon of maintenance. Okay, then they provide intermediate maintenance and modification applications in stock equipment. After that, they provide technical inspections services as required in support of equipment maintenance of the MEF. So in the Navy side, most of what we do when it comes to maintenance is 3M. The same thing on the Marine Corps side, but it's just the wording is different. Okay. All they're doing is making sure that every equipment that they have goes through and is maintained. If it's not serviceable, they have to know that and make sure that they don't have that equipment out there in a combat environment. Because the last thing you want to do is have someone go out to a combat environment and have a defective equipment to work with. Okay. All right. All right. Then we go into the companies. Like I said, HNS, they always do the same company, the same thing. HNS, command and control, command support functions. That's all they do. And that's it about that. So the main thing about this is, the one thing that you want to know is know the task of the maintenance battalion. Know what they do. Okay. Okay. I should be able to brush through it now. Okay. Ready? Ready. All right. Yes, we will talk about the CSSC section 131. We'll be dealing with the maintenance battalion in this section. All right. This is to let you know what the guys in the maintenance battalion do. That way you understand how they impact combat service support. Okay. Moving right along into first of all, with all these different battalions, the biggest thing to know is to know their task. If you understand what their task is, then you understand what they're doing. Okay. When it comes to maintenance battalion, organization-wise, every battalion has an HNS company, and then they have the different companies that make up that battalion. Okay. For the maintenance battalion, this is the structure. They have the HNS, which handles, of course, command support functions and do all that good stuff. After that, then they have all these other companies that help, that make up that battalion. Okay. And this is it. We have HNS. They give support to who? They give support to Motor T. Let me see here. There you go. That's the one I needed. Okay, maintenance battalion. They have ordnance maintenance company. They have motor transportation company, engineering maintenance company, like I mentioned, the HNS company, electronics maintenance company, and general support maintenance company. So you have HNS, and then ordnance, Motor T, electronics, engineer, general support. One, two, three, four, five, six. So these 6 companies fall under the maintenance battalion. In essence, what we're saying, that when we have ordnance, those ordnance have to be maintained. And that's where they come in. We have vehicles that we use for the logistics, the planning and maintenance of forces. We have that, and those have to be maintained. Then we have electronics equipment that has to be maintained. We have the engineering guys, all the equipments that they use, those have to be maintained. And all that is done, and everything else that's not covered on here falls on the general support maintenance company. Okay, moving right along. Before I go down and give you the task of maintenance battalion, I just want to go ahead and give you a breakdown of the echelons and categories of maintenance. There are 5 echelons of maintenance. 5 echelons. Those 5 echelons feed into 3 categories, and I'll break it down to you. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. The first 2 echelons fall under one category called the organizational. fall under the organization. The second two fall under the level called intermediate maintenance. Okay. Then the last level falls under the depot. Okay. So, in essence, let me break this down further. During organizational, under the organizational category, the maintenance is done in-house. That means your equipment doesn't leave the building. It's maintained right in-house. They're doing all the inspections and calibrations right in-house. Okay. A good example would be, let's say, since we're medical, would be, let's pick an x-ray machine. You have an x-ray machine in, let's say, a clinic. And to maintain that, you have to, the x-ray corpsman, the person that works with that equipment every day will be the first person that will do checks, make sure the equipment is working. Now, if there's a malfunction in the equipment, he'll try his best to fix it. But remember, all he knows is how to use the equipment. He's not a technical expert in fixing the equipment. That's what the biomedical technicians are for. Okay, so if he does what he knows how to do in doing the daily checks and maintenance, that falls under echelon 1. Echelon 1 being that he is the one, he's the primary person that uses it. He do, everything he can to make sure that the equipment is working. After that, if he can't fix it, then he has to call someone that specializes in fixing equipments. When he calls that person to come in and look at it, that's echelon 2. That means someone else comes in from outside and looks at the equipment in-house. So when you have somebody come in, or if you do the inspection in-house, both of those fall under the organization because your equipment is still in-house. After that, you get to third and fourth echelon. During the third and fourth echelon, the specialist, if during the second echelon tries to fix the equipment and cannot, maybe he needs more tools, maybe he needs to be in the right environment to fix that equipment, might decide to want to take the equipment back to his shop, which you guys still belong in the same, not in the same organization at that level, but he's in a different, it's all in the same command, but okay, let me see. If you're a Navy side, this will be like having someone come out of a different department to your division to come fix something. That's the easiest way to look at it. So when it comes down to do that, that's third level, third echelon. Remember, these are your echelons, and this are the categories that they fall under. Okay? So, once he gets to that point and he takes the equipment back to his shop, which is echelon 3, if he still cannot fix that equipment, he has to call somebody from the manufacturer's company to come in and look at it. That means it's above his technical expertise, so he can't do it anymore, so he has to get someone else to do it. When he calls that person to come in and look at the equipment, that goes to echelon 4. That means someone from outside the organization is coming in to your specialist shop to take a look at your equipment. If that doesn't happen, once that happens, if that person, the specialist that comes out from the manufacturer's company, cannot fix it, then that person might recommend sending that equipment back with him so it can get fixed, looked at by his people, because it's not one man's job at that point. At that point, that falls under the depot level. And the depot level maintenance, there's only one person that is authorized to allow that maintenance to happen. And that person is the commandant of the Marine Corps. So, most of the time, in most cases, between levels 1 and 4, usually we get equipments good to go. If not, like I said, then it has to go up to the commandant of the Marine Corps. And if he says yes, then that equipment goes out to get looked at. Okay. Now, we know what companies make up the maintenance battalion. And then we know the echelons and categories that this maintenance happen. Now, what we want to do is find out the task that's involved with the maintenance battalion. Okay. All right. So now we're looking at the task. All right. I came up with, what do you call it? With an acronym that helped me remember the task for this. I call it COMIT 3-4. C-O-M-I-T-T 3 and 4. Make it easy, 3 and 4, just the echelons of maintenance that they do. They provide third echelon maintenance. And then they provide fourth echelon maintenance. Okay, the T's. This is for track vehicle evacuation. All that says is, let's say you go now, you have a breakdown on the road. You have to call these people to actually come in and tow the truck and take it back for repairs. So they do that too. Apart from that, technical inspections. Okay, they do inspections. Apart from the inspections, what else they do? They provide technical assistance. Okay, so they provide technical assistance and overflow organizational maintenance for supported units as directed by higher headquarters. Okay, so apart from after that, for the M, they provide intermediate maintenance and modification applications. Modification applications. Okay. For the O, they provide organizational second and intermediate third and fourth echelon. If you remember from the last thing I wrote, I told you first and second echelon falls under organization. Then I'd say third and fourth falls under intermediate. So that's all they're trying to say. They say, okay, these guys do this, and they do both of these. That's what they say. Because one, the very first maintenance is done by the user. That's why we don't add first. But when it comes to the second, the third, and the fourth echelon, those are all done by the maintenance battalion. So, like I said organizational. That's where you get that word. Second echelon, because that's where that falls under. And then they also do intermediate, right there. Third and fourth echelon maintenance. Okay. So then the last of the tasks is providing calibration services. So, if you try using that COMIT 3-4, you always have a good way of remembering the different tasks for the maintenance battalion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tasks. Effective way of remembering them. Well, different people study different ways, but acronyms help a lot. If you can remember COMIT 3-4, providing calibration services, and providing organizational second and intermediate third and fourth echelon maintenance, providing modification applications, providing technical inspections, providing technical assistance, providing track vehicle evacuation, and providing third echelon maintenance, and then fourth echelon maintenance. You will have no problem remembering this task. And basically, this is really all you really have to know about the maintenance battalion. Know the different companies that fall under them. You have to know that. You have to know the different companies. Know those companies, and then remember the tasks that follow. Okay? All right. Next, moving right along. Okay. Then there's a few terminologies that we have to discuss at this point that has to do with maintenance. Just only a few of them. Just only a few. Okay. The first terminology is overhaul. What is overhaul? Think about overhauling a car. The definition here is that it's the restoration of an item to a completely serviceable condition as prescribed by maintenance serviceability standards. So think about a car. If you think about somebody overhauling a car, it's just getting that car to work. So if the car breaks down, something happens to it, how do we get it to, you take it back to the shop, overhaul. That means you're bringing it back to a completely serviceable, you're making it good again. Okay. And then next one is rebuild. Actually, if you look at that word, rebuild, it kind of gives you the definition. It's almost like you're rebuilding something. All right, the definition, according to the book, is the restoration of an item to a standard as nearly as possible to its original condition in appearance, performance, and life expectancy. So, in essence, if you're rebuilding something, you're making it completely new in a way. You're making it new. So, if you make it look like its original condition in appearance, performance, and life expectancy, it's almost like new. That's rebuilding. Overhaul, you're fixing. Rebuilding, like new. Okay? Then the next one is repair. Definition, according to the book, is the restoration of an item to a serviceable condition through correction of a specific failure or unserviceable condition. Difference between this and this, during repair, you're focusing on what the problem is and just fixing that. You don't worry about anything else. That's it. You're just repairing it. That's it. But in overhaul, you're restoring the item to a completely serviceable. That means you check what's wrong with it. After that, you go around and see if there's anything else you can. You're going around and making sure everything else is fixed on it. Okay? As prescribed by the maintenance standards for that particular equipment. Okay? Then you have your preventive maintenance. The preventive maintenance is basically what you do daily, the different things that you do to try to maintain equipment to give it a longer life. According to the book, is the care and servicing by personnel for the purpose of maintaining equipment and facilities in satisfactory operating condition by providing for systemic inspection, detection, and correction of incipient failures either before they occur or before they develop into major defects. So the daily things that you do with your equipment to make sure that it doesn't go bad. That's your preventive maintenance. Trying to make sure that if something looks like it's about to break, gluing it before it actually breaks off, that's preventive maintenance. Then the last one is unserviceable. All right. An item in a condition unfit for use, but which can be restored to a serviceable condition after repair, rework, or overhaul. In essence, all that means is if you have something that's broken but can be fixed, then it's unserviceable. If it's broken and cannot be fixed, That doesn't mean that it's unserviceable. That's just it doesn't work. But if there is a chance of fixing and getting this equipment to work, then for the moment that it's not working, it's unserviceable. Now, after repair, it becomes serviceable. Or sometimes you might take it to shop and have it overhauled, it becomes serviceable. But until that is done, the term that we use for it is unserviceable. So if you know all that and you know the different tasks of the maintenance battalion, you know all the companies that fall under maintenance battalion, you should be good to go. And given that, after that, you're good as gold. You know what goes on with maintenance battalion, and now we're going to move right along. Next thing we're going to talk about is section 132. This has to do with the supply battalion, okay? Trust me, we cannot do without these guys. All right. Like anything else, I always tell you, you have to understand what the mission is. So, what is the mission of the supply battalion? According to the book, definition here. The mission of the supply battalion provides general supply support, except for bulk fuel and Navy-funded stock programs for sustaining MACTAF operations. So what does that mean? These are the guys that provide all your stuff, anything you need, except bulk fuel, because that task is given to someone else, and we'll explain further down the road. Bulk fuel and Navy-funded stock program, that means the Navy handles that part of the deal. If it's funded by the Navy handles it. But for every other thing, the supply guys, they're the guys. Okay, under the supply battalion, once you know the mission, what do you have to know next? You have to know the companies that fall under supply. So remember, I already told you, in every battalion, there's always one company, the H&S company. So you have H&S. Then, after H&S company, you have the supply company. After the supply company, you have your ammunition company. And after ammunition company, then you have a medical logistics company. Okay, so these are the four companies that fall under the supply battalion. A good acronym for them is HAMS. Now, most people hear HAM. That's H&S, ammunition, medical, and supply. So if you have your acronym right there, and you should never, every time you hear supply, think about HAM, because yes, they supply HAM too. No. But HAM will give you a good way of remembering the companies that fall under the supply battalion. Okay. So H&S, the supply, the ammunition, and the medical logistics company. Like I said, the task of the H&S is always command, support functions, administrative functions. They do all your administrative stuff. These are people that you go to when you need anything to happen. All right? The supply company handles mostly all the supplies, okay? Then the ammunition company handles supplies that you need, your ammo supplies. Those are handled by the ammunition company. Then, of course, medical logistics, MedLog has its own, because we have a lot of supplies too when it has to deal with medical. We have our own section in supply battalion because we handle a lot of supplies. So just having any layman person, any lay person handle, issue your supplies, they might not understand. So you need to have these guys in there. And this is also where the specialists or the biomed repair techs come out from medical logistics here. All right. So now that we know all the companies that make up the supply battalion, next thing we're going to go into is find out, what do these people actually do? What is the task that is involved with supply? Okay, there's quite a few of them here. I believe there's 12 of them. Supply battalion should have 12 tasks. They do a lot. They provide contracting support. Reading from the book, they provide contracting support and cross-servicing services for supported unit as required. See, we're keeping everything as simple as we can. So 1, they provide contracting support. After that, they provide warehousing. Yep. Provide warehousing capability in support of the MEF. Then they provide accounting. Provide accounting for class, and I'll go into different classes of supplies here in a minute. For classes 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, and 9. Provide accounting for all those classes. And like I said, I'll break down what these different classes mean. Then they provide subsistence support. What does that mean? We gotta be able to eat and do. So basically they provide us food. So without that, we won't be here to teach this stuff. All right? Then they provide receipt, storage, and forwarding of class 3 package supplies. Okay. Receipt, storage, and then they forward it. Class 3. Now when I go into different classes, this stuff will make sense. It will feel like gold. All right? Then they provide receipt, storage, issue, and accounting functions for class 5. Receipt, that's number 6. Receipt, storage, issue, and they account for it. And account. Class 5. Next, they provide technical assistance in receipt, storage, assembly, and provision of nuclear ordnance. So they provide technical assistance in receipt, storage, assembly, and provision. Nuclear ordnance. Remember, that's why we have the ammunition company as part of, one of the supply companies in there, so they can handle this part of it. Anything that has to do with weapons and stuff, they'll be the ones handling that part. Okay. Then they provide for receipt, storage, and issue of organizational second and intermediate third and fourth echelon maintenance support for Class 8 supplies and equipment. All right. I can just throw this out there already. Class 8 supplies deals with medical stuff. And that's what I was trying to say. The med log is the people that when we have to fix our equipment, the guys that fix it come out of med log. Because in medical, the guys that take care of our equipment, since all equipments are kept at med log anyways, we have to have people there to do the maintenance on it. Those maintenance guys are what we call biomedical technicians. The guys that fix our different machines or whatnot to get it ready for. So they provide receipt, storage, and issue for Class 8. Issue, provide receipt, storage, issue, and of course, whenever we talk about organizational second or intermediate third and fourth, we're dealing with maintenance. So they provide maintenance of that. That's the only time that in supply, the only time that they do maintenance has to do with the medical stuff. Because apart from that, every other maintenance stuff is handled by maintenance battalion. So the only time that you hear about maintenance on the supply battalion, it has to do with medical logistics. Because that's where, again, the guys that fix the medical equipment fall under the medical logistics command over there. So they do that, and then organizational second and intermediate third and fourth echelon for class 8 supplies. Okay. Remember I told you that I gave you one of the classes already. Class 8 is medical. So, after that, what else they do? They provide intermediate level shop stores issue points for the MEF. So it's just like being on the ship, what we call the ship store. Instead of having to go buy your stuff from, go out in town and buy your stuff, they provide intermediate level shops right here. So you have access to buy the things that you need. They provide shops. So it's part of, they supply you with shops, more or less. So that's one of their tasks. Intermediate level shops. They provide that for the MEF. All right? Then, they provide procurement services for the MEF for items decentralized by the integrated material manager. So what? They gotta go back, they buy stuff for us. So, procurement services. Yep. And then, next thing they do, they provide packing, preservation, and packaging services. What we call the PP&P. P&P. So first, P is packing. Next one is preservation. And then packaging. So they provide packing, preservation, and packaging services for the MEF. Okay, apart from that, there's one more, there's 20, number 20. There's one more. Then they provide, I'm going to write that one up here. This is too low, number 12, which is the last one. They provide supply support management for the FSSG. Now we call it the MLG. You should already know that. So Marine Logistics Group, they provide supply support management. Supply support management. Okay. So if you remember this task, a good way of that I use in remembering, I know we have to deal with supply. So first of all, somebody's got to negotiate where we're going to buy from. And that's where contracting comes in. If you have to go out and negotiate who you can buy from, you know, state a little few rules or whatnot, who does what we're going to buy from? They provide where we're going to store this stuff when we buy it. And that's where warehousing comes. Okay? They provide accounting for the different supply classes. That means the money management, and that's accounting. They provide subsistence, remember. That means food that we're going to eat to survive, they provide that. Then they do all the receipts and storage and this and that. But also, I'm trying to give you the easy ones to help you remember as much as you can. Provide procurement services. Remember, we already did the contracting. After we make the contract, say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Once we've set the rules, all we have to do is start buying. So they actually go out and buy stuff. Procurement services. When they buy the stuff, they bring it in and store it, right? So to get it to us, they put it in smaller stores and have it available to us. And that's that intermediate level shops that we're talking about. They provide that. That way we have access. Instead of going to town to go out and buy a pencil or whatnot, you need a pencil, you run right across the street and you can get your pencil and do whatever task you need to do. Okay? And that kind of gives you a good idea of the simple things that they do. Then of course, after you know those, then you come in here and you find out different classes, what they support, which ones they store, which ones they forward. And that will kind of help you, give you a good background of what's going on, what that task is all about. And when you know that, then you'll be able to understand why they do what they do. But before I leave this, before I go past this, I want to go into to further break down. Need to break down the classes of supply, because for a lot of people they were like, okay, I count 1, 2, 3. 4. You wondering what does that really mean? Let's get into detail about that. Okay. Okay. All right, there are 10 classes of supplies. 10 of them. All right, so first class is clothing. Next class, I take that back. First class is actually subsistence. You have to have food for you. You know, we're going with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. So food, subsistence. Now, once you have your subsistence, then you have to get clothed, right? So clothing is a second. All right, moving right along. After clothing, you have petroleum. All right, then class 4. Class 4 is construction. Class 5. Class 5 is ammunition. Class 6 is personal. Class 7 is your major end items. Class 8, I already told you, again, that's the one I gave you earlier. Deals with me, the rest of us, medical. Okay, class 9 is the repair parts. And class 10, of course, is material. Okay, so just remember, we talked about the task and we told you this, that, and this class, this, the class. That's all this means. This is the classes that those fall in there. Class 1, subsistence, the food that we eat. Class 2 is clothing, making sure you get all the, we supply clothes. Petroleum, to gas, the helos, all the ships, the vehicles, and whatnot. Construction, because we have to be able to get out there and build where we need to be, or what we need. Construction. And after that is ammo. Remember, we're dealing with a combat environment, so we have to have ammo to be able to support ourselves. Then personal, all your personal supplies fall under personal. Then your major end items fall under class 7, which has to do with everything else that's not covered in the rest of this. Then class 8 is all your medical supplies. Matter of fact, I forgot to put dental. Common mistake. Anytime you hear medical, if dental is not mentioned, yes, we are always together. Medical and dental supplies falls under that. So once you make sure that you know these classes of supply, because it'll kind of make sense to you when you're dealing with different tasks. Okay. And last but not the least, you have to know a few definitions of when it comes to medical supplies, because that's what we are all about. You gotta know what the AMAL and ADAL are. The AMAL is the Authorized Medical Allowance List. ADAL is the Authorized Dental Allowance List. Okay? Okay. So, these AMALs and ADALs are configured in assemblages such as equipment and supply. The equipment assemblage contain equipment and reusable material used in basic function of the assemblage, example, an operating room. Okay. There is a Marine Corps order that governs this too, and that's the Marine Corps order I think it's 4400 series. There's the Marine Corps orders that covers the AMAL and the ADAL. So basically, the AMAL is, blocks of, equipment that you use for medical. When we go out to do anything, everything is pre-packed. So you get your box, all your equipment is there, it's checked, you go in and you do your inspection, make sure you get all your stuff. So when they give you a table of equipment, that's what this is all about. They tell you what AMAL you need, what ADAL you need for your mission. You go in, you grab it, do your inspections, and then you're good to go. So we have a Marine Corps order that governs it, and that's the 400 series. It contains the AMAL and ADAL procurement policies and procedures. Okay? Just keep that in mind, because you definitely have to know that. 4400 series deals with the AMAL and ADAL. Right? And I hope, given that, the few acronyms and the few ways of, trying to twist and learn things, I hope it becomes beneficial when it comes to being able to apply it and to get that pin. Remember, this is what you want. If you want this on your chest, you gotta put in the work. And I really hope that, this presentation helps you. So remember, if you don't remember anything else, know just a few things. When it comes to the battalions, know the mission of the battalion. When you know the mission, know the companies that fall under that battalion. After you know the mission, know the task that that battalion does. If you do that, you should be good to go. Okay? Thank you very much.